Hello, Gundam fans. This is Speedball Hard, and today for you guys, I have for you an interesting review and another Char's Counterattack based review with the Model Comprehends SD Scale RX Hi-NU Gundoom. Now, I know that's a silly name, my friends, but this brand was well known to using that term with a number of their releases, especially the new Gundam series. Literally, they had a few of them with that, and the Gundoom term is just their way of avoiding certain copyright issues with Bandai, of course. Because for those who don't know this brand, yes, this brand was known to doing bootlegs and modifications and such of Bandai-based models, and in this case, this is, of course, of the SD HI-NU Gundam, but I believe this specific version, I could be wrong, forgive me if I am, is more or less based on a possible rescind kit, because I don't believe this was based off of an older SD kit of the HI-NU Gundam for reasons. One, the detailing on this kit is pretty interesting for its age, because understand, friends, this kit came back out in 2012 and has not been, released since. But also the fact that this kit is pretty color separate for an SD kit. Remember, friends, that's what we're talking about here is SDs, and we all know that a percent of SD kits, well, they're not known for color separation to a degree. And I can say that because, as you guys can see right here, this is the sticker sheet this kit comes with, and it's not actually bad for an SD, honestly. And I've seen my fair share of SDs, and most of this here is just for detailing. That's it. It's just for smaller details, which for here I just painted, of course, to make it simpler. And that's one thing I really was impressed with this kit, was just like, for detail wise, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty good for an SD for its age as well. As you guys can see, the detailing on it is really nice, and just adding a little paintwork to it really brings out the Hi-NU aesthetics for sure. That's one reason I like this. As you can see all the way around to the back here. It's really awesome. I definitely like it, but pretty much most of the kit is pretty much color separate. That's what impressed me with a lot, because with normal SDs, and for an SD, guys, we all know that most of the time a percent of the kit's going to need stickers, especially depending on the age of the SD, which in this kit's case surprised me a lot, because as I shown you guys, the sticker sheet wasn't that bad, and most of the kit is color separate. And I've seen my fair share of SDs. I mean, for example, if we were like comparing this with, say, an SDEX kit, for those who know what that is, yeah, this would have that actually beat with ease, because those kits are sticker heavy like crazy. This kit, yes, does need a little paint work, I won't lie, but it's not even that bad. Most of it's just small detailing, really. I mean, for example, like the gun here, and smaller details like by the feet here and so forth, like around here, the blue around here, this small section here. Really, that's pretty much the biggest stuff. Everything else is just parts. So that's what impressed me. And for a kit of its age, that's pretty cool, I have to admit. But that's not even the best features of this kit. One of the known features that the model comprehends was known for with their SD kits was an LED feature, and inside the kit itself, which is a really awesome gimmick. Specifically, of course, if you're wondering, would be in the head section here. Now, unfortunately, guys, I do apologize for one thing, is that because of how old this kit was and such, the batteries that did come included with this kit, well, let's just put it this way, they were fuzzy, and you could pet them and they would probably purr, if you catch my drift. So they weren't bad. So yeah, I couldn't use them. Sorry, guys. So unfortunately, I can't show the LED off per se, because I just don't have the batteries. But I can show you, however, give me 1 second, how, or more specifically, where you would activate the SD from, which would be right here, this part of the head. It's designed with a spring-loaded feature, so all you would have to do is just, normally you would just click in here, see, and once it clicks, it would just turn the LED on and off with no problem. Now, I will say that's also the one feature with the Comprehends line that was always tricky with the number of these I have built, is that the spring load feature is quite tricky in a sense, because you gotta sandwich everything together, but keep it together while assembling it in the head. That is like literally the hardest part of the SD build here, is the head. After you get past that point, that's about it. And if you are wondering, because yes, this is a third-party unit, what about fitting issues? Anything like that? No, most of the kit came together just fine, except once again the head. That is, like I said, the trickiest part, because besides the spring feature setup, they specifically the pegs at the top of the head, I believe it was, were a bit challenging because they just wouldn't push in together. So I had to do a little sanding to clean that up a little to get it in properly. But other than that, it was fine after I had the head fully assembled. After that, pretty much everything else came together pretty fine with no problem. So that's always the only issue I've ever had with these SD units. Other than that, the rest of the kit came together and, really cool. And like you can see here, the detailing is nice and so forth. And you can see the clear eyepieces down there. If I can get the light to show it off as best as I can. And such. Now, what other features does this kit have, you might wonder? Well, one feature it has is that, surprising enough for an SD kit, especially an older SD in this case, is that, well, you can actually bend arms and legs on this kit where normal SDs wouldn't, meaning that this kit actually has an elbow and a knee bend. Now, yes, it is limited because, of course, we're still talking SD size, but you can actually still pull off some pretty cool articulated poses. For example, the wings back. Let me move the shield off though real quick so I can show it off properly. As you guys can see, you can do a full 360 with the arm right here with no problem. The shoulder setup as well, full 360. You can go all the way around that way, and an added joint here allows you to move it even further. Now, do note though, the shoulder armor does tend to slide off the peg it's on, so it does look loose, but you can easily put it back in just by pushing in the shoulder back in, so it's no biggie. But back to this, as you guys can see, it is a full elbow pose, so you can definitely pull off some really cool arm poses with it. And for the hand, they're not ball jointed, they're pegged, but they do hold in pretty well with no problem. So there's nothing wrong with that. And as for other articulated points, let's see. So you guys can see, besides the armor and extra kibble on the back there, you can pretty much do a full 360 with the waist section. And as for the legs, as I mentioned, they are articulated more. So you guys can see, you can go about that far back and such without hitting too much armor. And just as I mentioned, you can knee bend it to a degree, of course. And as for the feet, it's on a ball joint, so pretty much about this far. Though for some reason, I don't know, I think it's just my copy. I feel like the feet need to be pushed in a little further, but maybe that's just me. And you can go about that far with it because it is on a ball joint still, so there's that. But the skirt armor can move around a bit, so you can adjust for poses, of course, like that. And such. Ooh, that was my fault. And as for like the head, it's on a ball joint, so you can pretty much go as far as you want. Though you can't really bend the head too far up, unfortunately. So this is as far as it can go up and down. And without bumping into too much armor, you can go side to side. And if the armor was out of the way, of course, you can go full 360 with no problem. And as for the back parts here, you can see that you can pretty much go as far as you want, pretty much flap like a bird. And because it's on a peg, you can literally go full 360 on this, so that's a pretty cool option for posability for both sides, so that's pretty cool. These are just on pegs, so they just pretty much, you can turn them left and right if you want, just because. And so can this, up and down, and two, of course, on a peg, so you can do any crazy pose you want and such like that. So yeah, that's pretty much all the articulated feature for this little guy. But honestly, like I said, for its age and for the type of SD it is, I honestly say that's pretty cool. That's the one thing with this brand I do like with them, is that they gave SD kits a little extra playability in that sense. And another feature that they were known for is, well, in this case, accessories too. For example, in this kit's case, let's go for the standard first, and that is the extra hands. You see here, just your normal stuff, trigger, and open hands, and of course, weapon holding hands, which is really cool because, as you can see, you have this really cool HI-NU beam saber effect piece, which is really cool because it actually has a back beam saber effect here for the bottom of the blade. And there's, of course, two of these, so you can go twin bladed. And they even gave you a standard beam saber just because. And such like that. And of course, besides the standard rifle, the shield, of course, things like that. Now, the special features for parts and such that this kit comes with will be its stand piece, as I showed you here with this piece. So real quick, let's move this back real quick so you take a good, better look at this. This is at first just your standard little just a standard stand in most cases, but the way this brand works, they always add special pieces to increase it, like this ring piece you can attach to the stand easily, like such. Okay. Which allows you to take the HI-NU Gundam and add any of its funnel bits to it in a display of any kind, utilizing one of these arm attachments that you can put anywhere. Honestly, they're designed to be plugged in on the new Gundam itself or on the stand itself, so it's wherever you want with these, which is really nice because these ones come with a ball joint setup at the top here. So, you know, the plenty posability there, the joints down here, and so forth like that. But there is one thing I must mention specifically with this brand's line of clear parts, or more specifically, like in this case, stands. Do know this. For some reason, their plastic quality for their clear parts is not always the best. I say this because with a number of the others I have built before, their stands just affect parts and arms like this one and such. I've had the biggest issue with was cracking. Yes, a lot of the joint sections would crack and such and make it pretty much useless, or just breaks completely and such. Now, so far I haven't had that issue with this one yet, but that is something I have noticed in the past. So please keep that in mind if you ever get your hands on one of these kits. So, or any of their other kits that come with stand parts, just please keep that in mind. But speaking of that, you will, however, have a lot of leftover parts for your stand in this case, for this one. So you can attach it to a different type of stands if you want. Adapters, of course, for the attachments, angle parts, pretty much. You got a number of things you can use, including these as well, these little rod pieces that you can, of course, adjust and attach to the new Gundam or the stand here for other poses and such like that. And lastly, the biggest thing you get that I think is really cool with this kit, and comes with a number of their other HI-NU Gundam releases, were a number of effect pieces like this one, this energy effect you attach to the funnels, beam bladed effects like these ones, and the biggest ones, wing parts, or if you're a Gundam Seed fan, wings of light. In a sense, literally, this is what it reminds me of. It's so cool. It's just a clear plastic piece, but it's really nice, and it attaches easily onto the body here by just attaching onto the funnels, which is another thing I want to talk about real quick, because these funnels are a lot of fun to play with, because as I've seen with a lot of older new Gundam based kits outside of, you know, master grades, RGs and stuff, we will all know that usually a lot of the time those funnel parts will usually be either molded to just as one piece, or molded to the one part of the body that you can't detach and fully use. Well, don't worry if you're wondering. You can literally fully deploy this little guy's funnel parts in any normal way that you should be able to with any HI-NU or new Gundam based funnels. And all you have to do to attach such parts like I showed you is, as you see it here, you just open them up, take like this one, tab it inside here, and plug it together, and voila, there you go. A simple energy effect piece. And like I said, I've seen these before with other versions of the HI-NU, of course, but you know, it's really cool that this brand released theirs with the kit as well. I really like that. And it's just a really cool effect piece to have with like an LED setup or anything like that. I really do like that part about this. And you just do the same thing with the wings here. All you do is simply put it through the hole right here. And then when you're attaching it on, you just make sure the hole is in place, and voila, pretty much. And then you just repeat with the other two funnels, and there you go. It would just be attached that way. In fact, give me 1 second and I can show it completely off. And there you have it, my friends, completely displayed with its new wing parts, as you guys can see. It's a really cool gimmick. I really like this. I mean, like I said, it definitely gives me the wing of light effect piece setup in a way, but it's really cool. And like I said, if you had an LED setup with this, that'd be a fun way to deploy them and display them. I do like that. But speaking of displaying, why don't we do a quick size comparisons with other kits so you guys can get an idea for its size in comparison with others, such as a fellow SD unit, which I think would be a good comparison with the SDG base Cross Silhouette RX-G3. As you guys can see, even for their age difference, this kit's actually a bit taller, and not, including the wing parts setup, but by head. It's actually a bit taller, but it's still really cool to have these two like this. You guys can get an idea of, cross silhouette to well, I guess in this case, standard SD or update modified SD, however you prefer, because it doesn't really mention on the box. It just states SD. So I know it could be related to like the SD BB series. I think I'm not 100%, but either way, it's still really cool to see how these two look together and such. And speaking of that, what better one to check it with than its rival slash fellow wave unit, the SD Model Comprehends Nightingale. Yes, this is their version of the Nightingale, and as you guys can see, these two together, rivals and so forth, and it is an awesome display setup with these two. I can't wait to put them up on my shelf now that I've done a little rearranging and such, and done a whole new slash char Amro shelf deal, which I can't wait to put these two up on now. And like you said, and as you can see, the height wise and size of them wise, it definitely fits for them. I love it. And other than that, let's show it off with a fellow version and fellow wave maters again, but with one that you'll understand is the Model Comprehends High Grade HI-NU Gundoom variation. And as you guys can see, I have both versions, and I definitely like having them together now. Though, as you can tell, the blue on the HG is a little, well, brighter than the SD version. That is interesting, I noticed. So, yeah, but it is nice to have them both together now. I can't wait because I do have one more HI-NU Gundam from this brand I intend to show you guys, which was a very interesting find. But that's for another day. But as you guys can see how these two look together, I mean, I love it. It's so cool. Well, the only other difference being is that between the high grade and this version, I won't technically need a stand for this one, because unfortunately the high grade version has that bad habit of falling over because of the backpack setup, and more specifically, just the weight. But however, it's really still nice to have this with it and such. Other than that, my friends, that is pretty much it. So my final thoughts on this kit. Well, I have to put it in two ways, so it's understandable. In this case, one, unfortunately, guys, because the fact this brand is no longer in production, at least to my knowledge, because from what I know, this brand pretty much shut down around the same time that the brand Dragon Moko was first shut down and such. So unfortunately, I don't think there'll be any new or reissue units from this brand anytime soon, unfortunately. I do apologize for that. However, there is still a chance you can find their models online, because I have seen a number of them floating around here and there. So my recommendation is, if you can find one of these little guys just floating around for a good price, I'd say sure, check it out. It's not a bad kit. Like I said, I've had no issues with the build. I've had no cracking, no breaking, no falling apart, none of that. I mean, it's not a bad kit. I really like it. It's a fun little SD version of the HI-NU Gundam. And if you happen to be a big fan of Amuro or Char's Counterattack or anything related to the new Gundam, this might be one you might want to check out. Because honestly, friends, I don't know if we'll see a Perfect Grade Unleash HI-NU Gundam at a point, since we are getting the standard new Gundam PG. So you never know, maybe, but that could be a while. So if you end up coming across this before then, check it out. Why not? So yes, that is it for today, my friends. As always, I thank you guys for coming. I do hope you're enjoying your hobby, and I will gladly see you all next time.